There we go. There we go. All right. Here we go, people. Hello, inventors and entrepreneurs. My name is Andrew Krause, and I'm one of the co-founders here at Inventor Groups of America, or IGA, whatever the heck you want to call it. Type your name into the chat if you're new here. The chat button's down at the bottom on the cell phone. I don't know where the hell it is, but you can find it. And just write, I'm new. And also for everyone else, it'd be great to hear from you. Type in what state or country you're from, or whatever else you want to type that's appropriate, of course. So going over now to the chat and let us know. So IGA was founded by Madeleine Key and myself to teach individuals how to best commercialize their product ideas, as well as strengthen and support inventor groups around the nation. We have speakers of all different types, venturing, patent attorneys, prototypers, licensing, just from all different perspectives, not just Stephen and my perspective or a perspective of other company InventRight, but perspectives from all different people. So we have a directory of local and regional inventor groups on our website. If you're located near one, we highly encourage you to join. They're falling by the wayside. Inventor groups really aren't, it's kind of hard to find them these days. So we're trying to help out the groups that do still exist. Just so you know, everything we do here at IGA is completely free. Yes, I said free. Nice word, huh? Please do not disclose anything that is confidential or is already publicly available. This meeting is being recorded. Will be harnessed on our website and our YouTube channel soon. If you have any questions for us, please type them into the chat as they come to you. As many as you know, Madeleine Key and myself also run InventRight, where we coach inventors to license their products. All the speakers today have been through the InventRight program and have licensed products. So let's get into it and introduce our panel of experts. So first, we have Ryan Bricker. He's a former InventRight member and designer of the hugely successful Whiskey Wedge, as well as his cigar glass. He's an amazing inventor. And then next up on our panel, we have Martin Lombardini, an InventRight coach who invents toys and safety/military products. That's an interesting combination. Martin recently spoke as a technology showcase speaker at the Aerospace Tech Week Americas conference, which is really cool. Dana Knowles is the inventor of the Shower Caddy and InventRight's director of inventor relations. Dana loves the licensing process and is fearless about reaching out to companies. Brad Cones is our last panelist. He's an InventRight coach working in the area of toys, games, and novelty. He recently licensed a game called Formworm. He has coached countless inventors through the product licensing process. So let's embark on a journey with our esteemed panel as they delve into their firsthand experiences and unique path to success. We will uncover the mindset for pivotal achievement, the concrete weekly tasks that drive progress, and explore the common stumbling blocks faced by inventors. We'll also gain unparalleled insights, yes, unparalleled, I said that, into how they navigated these challenges to bring their products to market and distinguish themselves in a competitive landscape. So welcome, everybody. So why don't we go around the room? Dana, say hi.
She got muted.
You need me to unmute yourself? Okay.
Oh.
Don't unmute yourself, because then we'll keep you. There you go. Maybe
Sorry about that. I muted myself by mistake, realizing I couldn't get. So what was the question?
That's okay.
What was the question? What was the question?
I was just saying welcome.
Oh, thank you. Welcome. Hi, everybody. I see a lot of familiar faces here. Some people I just talked to the other day, too.
Cool.
Wonderful.
Ryan, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. It's so great to be with my inventing brethren.
We asked Ryan to refrain from drinking whiskey during this seminar, since he has his Whiskey Wedge. Really bad joke that I already told with everybody before we got on. But it's really, really cool product. And then Martin, how you doing, Martin?
Great. Thanks so much for inviting me, and thanks for everyone coming out here and listening to this. Should be fun.
Martin's one of our coaches, extensive business background. We're really lucky to have him as a coach. He's an amazing dude. And then last on our panel is Brad. Last but definitely not least, he's counseled countless inventors throughout the years at InventRight to license their products. Brad, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Andrew. Glad to be here, and I see some familiar faces. I just did the open office hours webinar, and I see some people that are joining on this one as well. So
okay, that's cool. That's cool. All right, so I have some questions for our panel for these 4 speakers. I wonder if do you guys think we should stay as a group, or do you think I think we should maybe highlight these speakers That would probably be nice. So let's do that. Let's spotlight everybody here. We got Brad and we got Ryan. And then I guess I'll spotlight myself here. There we go. Okay. All right. So I've got some questions. This first one's kind of a doozy. It's pretty long. And some of these questions everybody will answer, some will answer. And you guys, please, especially when they're answering these questions, if it prompts you to think about another question, please type it into the chat. We may answer it at, right after, or probably more at the end. But we're just going to get going, get your kind of minds thinking about these things that they're saying. But please type your questions in the chat. We want to get some of your questions as well. Okay. So like I said, this first one's kind of a doozy as far as it being long. What mindset did you have before you really delved into inventing, or maybe when you first started? And then when did you feel like you changed to being a pro or being comfortable with the process? Like what changed in your mind? When did you think that change happened? And what should the audience know, and how do they get themselves there? So kind of when you went from the transition to going, I don't know what I'm doing, or thinking know what you're doing and realizing you didn't, to like, I got this. Now I understand the process. So why don't we start with Martin? He's at the center of the screen for me. Why don't we start with Martin?
All right, great. Yeah, I think that's a great question. And it's a big one, that's kind of a doozy, because I think as an inventor, especially for me, there's a lot of emotion involved, in that situation. I came from a completely different industry and got started in this. Thank God I found InventRight to train me on the basics and how to get it done. But I think that to answer that question, what turned me from really feeling more like a professional and having a better idea of what was going on, I really think it's two main factors. Reaching out to over 100 companies, I think that you learn a lot. You not just learn a lot about reaching out, but you learn a lot about your product based on the feedback you get, and all the other information that comes along with that. The other part, I think, that is a key factor in being a professional inventor is when you have your second idea. When you really realize it's not just one idea, it's more than one idea. And you start to utilize the things that you've learned from your first idea, morphing into the second. And I think that is a huge learning curve, key moment in an inventor's life. And at least it was for me. So that's how I would probably answer that question.
That's a great answer. Ryan, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first part of that question was important for me. Is I always thought inventing meant, and I always had ideas in my head, but I thought inventing meant you had to go get expensive patents and you had to take it to market and show up on Shark Tank, and you needed hundreds of thousands of dollars behind you. And so I never, that kept me from ever like pursuing any idea. And it wasn't until I read, actually it was 4 Hour Work Week, when it mentioned Stephen Key and licensing. I never heard of licensing. And so the whole idea of like, wait a minute, I can actually sell just an idea, or someone can use my idea. Like that light bulb just kind of went off in my head, and that just opened the gates for me. I was like, wait a minute, that's a totally different ball game. I've got ideas. I've got ideas. And so it's like, I just went to work with that knowledge and saying, hey, I can just produce ideas. I don't have to worry about like all the things of going to market. And so that was a first step in going pro, just knowing that it was possible. And then really reading Stephen Key's book, One Simple Idea. I got more education, went to InventRight, really understood the whole process. And then, I mean, I'd say I went pro early on when I signed my first deal, but I think maybe I got a little lucky there, but it was all the other ideas and actually like finding the right people to talk to and getting into that person, getting all the no's. I think after all of the no, I think finally being okay with hearing no, maybe, I don't know, 50, 100 times, then I'm like, okay. And then it doesn't even bother me. So I think that's when you turn that corner, when you can just take a no and like, come on, let's swing about again. I think that's kind of the next phase, which you'll all get to, hopefully.
Now, Ryan, in that vein, a lot of people wouldn't have gotten there. They wouldn't have received 100 no's. They would have given up much sooner. Why didn't you?
Some of it is at least my style of inventing, and what I like about licensing, there's a low cost of entry. Like, I have a design background in architecture, so I can design it myself and visualize it and 3D model it and stuff. So it doesn't cost me any money to kind of create an idea. And so for me, it's like, why not swing that bat? I'm not mortgaging my house on some crazy idea. And so that allowed me, like, it doesn't really bother me. And at least in my head, I was like, I know I got 10 more ideas coming. If this one's not the right one, the next one's coming. So
yeah, very pro attitude. Dana, what about you? When did you turn the corner from feeling like I can do this, and how did you feel about it before? What were some of your thought processes before I can do this, or even starting the licensing process that might have been incorrect?
Well, I was a lot like Ryan. I didn't even know what licensing was. And what shocked me is I was a member of my Inventors Club for, 12 years before I even found out what licensing was. And,
Oh my God.
I know, it blows my mind. And well, for me, for many, many years, I just, I listened to everybody who wasn't where I wanted to be. And it dawned on me one day, like this light bulb moment of, why? This is after when I read Stephen's book, One Simple Idea. I thought, why am I listening to the people who have never done what I want to do? I need to follow the people who have done where, if you want what we have, you'll do what we do. And even I remember, talking to you the very first time, Andrew, about Invent Right. And I was so, like, I've been ripped off so many times by so many people. And I thought, you know what, you're the last house on the block for me. Invent Right was the last house on the block. If I couldn't make something happen, I'm done. I quit. And then so I came in with an open mind, this humbleness about myself, that I don't know what I'm doing. Please guide me. And I still didn't know. I still felt like I was very, I didn't have a lot of self-confidence. I didn't know if I could do this, but I knew that if I put the work in, that the chances were a lot better than if I kept doing what I was doing. And Ryan, you talked about the no's, and I remember wanting to quit after like the 20th no. This is too hard. I don't want to do it. Rejection sucks, And Paul Sorensen was my coach, and man, thank goodness that I had somebody to say. He said, "You just go get some more no's, Dana. There's a yes in there." And I think, when I had a couple people interested in my product idea, and I got on the phone with them, and when I got off the phone, I sounded professional. I sounded like I knew what I was doing. At that point, even though I didn't have a licensing deal yet, but at that point, something clicked in my head that said, I know what I'm doing now. I know how to talk to these people.
Wait, at what point? What was it?
The point where the first company was interested, and they wanted to get on the phone. And I was so nervous, and I got on the phone with them. And when I got off the phone, and the conversation was 5 minutes, I got off the phone and I thought, damn, I sounded good. Shit. Maybe I do know what I'm talking about. And my whole mindset changed at that point. But so thank goodness that I didn't quit at the first 5 no's, 10 no's, 15 no's. And I know I reached out to over 80 companies. 23 ghosted me completely, nothing. 52 no's, 3 maybes, and then no's. And then number 53 said yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing when it became real for you.
Yeah.
That's what I hear, kind of a consistent theme here. There's a point at which it became real.
Mhm.
You're a little skeptical maybe, but you didn't know about it. You didn't know licensing existed. You didn't know that you could do that.
Well, it made sense to me. Like everything I read and everything I heard made sense to me, but I had been in that mindset before, what people were saying to me made sense to me before. And then I found out it wasn't the right thing to do. So I was worried. Of course, I don't, it was new to me. I didn't know. But you promised what you promised. We're going to guide and mentor, and we're going to make sure you do everything in the right order, the right way, and not make any mistakes. And we're going to be here the whole way. And I thought, well, if that's what you can, I wasn't scared to do the work. So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Dana. Thank you. Brad, what's your story?
Sure. Well, I feel like a lot of people might resonate with this, where you had an idea and you know, you didn't do anything with it, and all of a sudden you see it on TV or you see it on store shelf, and you're just like, oh, that was my idea. Well, see, I mean, that happened to me numerous times, but I didn't know what to do. So I just kind of chalked it up as, all right, well, you know, they obviously knew what they were doing, and they had it, they got it done. And like Ryan said, it wasn't until I read 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, I found out about InventRight, found out about licensing, and I thought, oh wow, this is exactly what I need to do. You don't have to invest a whole lot of resources and capital. You can basically pitch ideas and generate some royalties. So that's when the light bulb turned on for me. Since I already saw some ideas that I thought of hit the market, I knew in my mind that I had what it took, and I just needed to get out there and do it. And then when I got interest from the first company, I was like, all right, like this is it. I'm staying in here.
When it became real.
Yep.
Nice, nice. Okay, guys, thank you for sharing that. Next question is, everybody's inventors are obsessed about patents, right? We all know that. And then at InventRight, we kind of break them of that. We always say it's the benefit of your product. It's not a patent or a prototype that you're selling. But doesn't mean it's not important in one respect or another. It depends on the project. So Ryan, why don't we start with you? What are your feelings about patents and protection? I know it can vary by product too, and it can vary by your personal experience as well. It's different for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely learned from InventRight and kind of follow that mantra that I'm a provisional patent guy when it's a company I don't know with or know about or know personally. But I've only gone down the full patent route early on a couple times. For me, it's really about relationship. I mean, and like if you can get a chance to really know these people and know who they're about, if you're targeting some specific companies or brands and kind of feeling them out. And but I've had no problems. I've only not having patents. I've only had 1 or 2 issues where I felt like they were inspired by what I did on something they came out with. But I really follow kind of the InventRight method because for me, I'm coming out with so many ideas. There's no way I can't afford to file a full patent on every idea. That would be kind of silly. So I really like just doing the provisional route and using that to kind of create at least the idea of intellectual property, and kind of adds another layer of professionalism to it, I think, as well. And it's kind of it's not a heavy lift. And I think I mean, I wrote most of them myself and kind of learned that through InventRight too. It's not crazy difficult.
You said one thing that was very interesting earlier. You said it's more about the relationships than the patent. I think for new inventors, it's so daunting to think that they could make a relationship with this big company, but it's not the big company. It's usually a person, right? Can you speak to that just for a minute or two?
Yeah. I mean, even for me, I would say my big success with the whiskey wedge and corksicle actually worked in reverse of maybe what you got. I didn't have an idea and I came to that. I actually built a relationship with the founder and just said, let me come up with ideas for you. I didn't have this idea already. And so I had an agreement beforehand, like, hey, I'm going to pitch you guys a bunch of ideas. Anything goes to market, we'll work out a royalty agreement. And so I designed around their brand, around what they were already doing. And so that might be a different way for people to approach it. If you have a connection or a real in with a company, instead of just the idea you thought up in the shower, is like, think about their brand, what they don't have, what's that next product, and actually design for a brand or for a category. But that helped me on the IP side. I mean, I kind of had an agreement up front with them. In that sense, I didn't even need to go get IP because I kind of have an agreement to just be pumping out ideas for them.
Now, if they weren't interested, you would show that same idea to a bunch of other companies, right? Because you don't want to just pitch one product to one company.
I've done that over and over and over.
Okay, yeah. Cool. Martin, what's your thought about protections and patents?
You know, I like a lot of what Ryan was saying, and I agree with a lot of what he was saying. Number one, you know, the provisional patent provides, you know, the perceived ownership, which I think is important. Also, you know, it's a situation where I think everyone has to really realize what a provisional patent is giving you. It's just a placeholder, and it's only good for 12 months. And, you know, I talk to students about this all the time. You know, I can come up with an idea today on the 29th. Someone can come up with the same idea next week from now. Okay. And then I may not get a deal and then think, oh my gosh, I'm just going to refile it for another 12 months. In the meantime, this other guy, maybe he did get a deal or he filed a non-provisional. He may not get granted over the next 3 years. And I may still think I own this when I really have no ownership the moment he filed a non-provisional. And now you're really spinning your wheels. So I think there's a place for patents. I think you really have to understand what it's about. And a really big part of what Ryan was saying that I really agree with, and I could really speak a lot to, is about building relationships and how you're really going to make money and success in this business by building those relationships. And he talked about really good ways of doing it, and I do it in very similar ways. Aside from that, you know, I have a patent, I have a granted patent. But, you know, here's something else I think is also very important for everyone to realize. I think, what is the number, the statistic? Something like 75 to 85% of all granted patents never make it to the market. However, 75 to 85% of all products that we use daily don't have patents, but yet there they are. Everyone's buying them. There's no patent there. So what is that telling you? What is the true value of a patent? It's not about the patent. It's about perceived ownership on the front end. It's about, you know, getting a placeholder, and then really about building the relationships and doing the things that you have to do in the interim to be successful.
Cool. Thank you, Martin. Brad and Dana, you guys have any input on patents, or did Ryan and Martin cover it pretty much?
Yeah, I mean, I think patents are good. I think it gives you peace of mind, especially if you're a new inventor. It gives you that 12 months, so you don't feel like paranoid that someone's going to try to rip you off. The more you're in this game, the less paranoid you're going to become. And it also depends on what category you're in. If you're pitching novelty items, don't even worry about PPAs, because most companies don't even care about that. So it really just depends on the category. And yeah, if you have a big product and you see it, you know, being a game changer, you know, going with a full-blown utility patent may be worthwhile. But for me, I usually just stick with PPAs. But I do have a couple in mind where I'll probably go the distance with a potential company or myself. But yeah, haven't crossed that line yet.
Just when I talk to, you know, I talk to people on the phone all the time about our InventRight membership, and we talk about provisional patent applications. And I don't know where I got this at, but I use this line all the time, that a provisional patent application locks in your potential patent rights while you're trying to further develop your idea or finding a company to further develop your idea. And that I know that I found my provisional patent application. I, you know, went through InventRight Smart IP. It walked me right through writing it and filing it, and I felt very comfortable with it. And I reached out to a bunch of companies, and I finally did license my idea. And I can remember my provisional patent application. We were in negotiations. We know we were going forward, but my PPA was going to run out. And I called the company, and we had talked previously about what would we want? Would we want a design patent? Would we want a utility patent? Because I could have applied for both of them. And at the end of the day, when my PPA was going to run out, I called them and I said, you know, it's running out. And they said, well, you know what, Dana, we don't care about a patent if you don't care about a patent. And I said, well, if you don't care about a patent, I don't care about a patent. Let's roll. And, you know, and I've also learned that, you know, patents are not necessarily going to protect us from someone ripping us off. What it's going to do is give us the right to go sue them if they do. And who has the deep pockets to do that? In this wide world that we live in, the knockoffs are going to come, the cheaper ones are going to come. But naturally, like you said, Brad, it really depends on what industry you're in. If it's really, really unique and really something that you want to protect, then absolutely. But if it's just something simple, I'd say PPA.
Nice. Thank you, guys. Great advice. The next one's kind of random, and you guys, let's just do a free-for-all, just jump in. What is your best random tip about any part of the licensing process or licensing an idea? And you guys have just a random tip that you're thinking about. Go ahead, Martin.
I have one. I think, and it goes kind of what Ryan was saying. I think there's so much content here. It's about building relationships, you know, and here's a way to do that. Every no is an opportunity for a relationship.
Uh-huh.
And I think part of, kind of going back to what we were talking about the first question, which is, where's that key point where you realize you're a professional? I remember, as inventors, we get no's. We get hundreds of no's, thousands of no's, depending on how many products you have and how many companies you're reaching out to. And hopefully you have thousands of no's because you're doing your work. But what you realize is after time is that, what can I get out of these no's? And that occurred to me very quickly. I'm like, I need to build a relationship with every person that I'm getting a no with. And that is where things start to happen, because you start to pitch the same company multiple products. They have an idea of your creativity, even though it may not have worked. Well, guess what? You may have built a relationship with someone that you can do work for hire, that you can start, just like Ryan said, I'm now developing products specifically for a company, giving them first right of refusal. They may even pay you money to do that. And, and now if it doesn't work, you can pitch it out to somebody else. So turning everything you do into building relationships is key to success, I think, in this business. And that would be one of the things I would say about that.
Nice.
Yeah, I can kind of piggyback on that. Well, my one bit of advice would say, don't try to do it alone, because you know what, alone and not knowing, we're going to make mistakes, and mistakes are costly and timely. And when you have someone that can guide you through it and make sure you're not making any mistakes and making sure you're doing everything in the right order. I want to share a story about a connection that it was a no, that for my shower caddy. And I built a relationship because I learned that no's are not good. No's are like, you say, thank you very much. May I send you more ideas in the future? Absolutely. Well, we just started chatting back and forth. I saw him at a trade show, just a simple, hey, how you doing? Whatever. And we've chatted back and forth on LinkedIn over the years. And now he's changed jobs. He's changed positions. And he is working for one of the biggest housewares companies. And guess who has a connection with them? I do. Nice. Because you follow them wherever they go. And you find that a lot in our industry, that people do change jobs and go into different companies in the same industry. So when you have that relationship, it doesn't matter where they go, that relationship will go with them. So that just happened a couple of weeks ago, that I looked at his LinkedIn profile, and he is now the VP of something at this massive big company that I would love to get into, right? But I think I'm already in, because there he is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Ryan, Brad?
Oh, so one little tip I have, a lot of people come to me with ideas, and maybe you guys, I think you go over this in the training, but like, really, when you think you have a great idea, like, spend some time on Google looking for it, and go to Google Images and type in a lot of variations of what this thing can be. Because so even my ideas, 9 times out of 10, the exact thing exists. And you don't want to spend crazy time and money on something that actually already exists. I have people, I'll find things in 2 seconds. Someone describes me the perfect idea. I'm like, here it is. And they're like, wait, no, it doesn't exist. I was like, I just found it. So that's one tip I always say. And don't let it discourage you. Like, that just proved you had a great idea. So keep going.
Yeah, you could always mix it up. Go, well, I've been thinking about this for months. Now, you should have looked it up like the second you had the idea, because then you could have made an adjustment, but you can still make an adjustment later, right?
Yep, totally.
Yeah. Brad, you have a random expand on that, or any other?
Well, no, I think the ones that were mentioned are the most crucial ones. I mean, I was not building relationships early on when I first started. I just thought, hey, a good idea is a good idea. But quite frankly, companies, they don't just take your idea. They want that relationship with the inventor too, because you're going to be negotiating. They want to make sure that you're not going to fly off the handle and ask for 20% royalty. So really, I think relationships are key. They really are. And Martin, I think you mentioned it too. The more you're pitching to companies, they'll start asking you, hey, well, like, would you actually offer your services potentially for me? That happened to me. I was like, yeah, that's a possibility. So yeah, the more you pitch, the more you're going to learn. So just keep pitching, keep learning and growing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the next question is, everyone is busy these days. How do you prioritize inventing and stay on track week after week? Also, I'm sure you guys take breaks from time to time, but when you do, how do you get back on the horse? So basically, how do you prioritize and stay on track every week? And some people were asking questions in the chat. How much time do you spend on it? So why don't we start with Dana? Dana, what's your answer to that?
When I was in Inventors, I actually quit watching TV. I just, I realized how much TV I watched, well, I mean, not that I'm like watching 8 hours a day, but it was, you come home from work and you do the dinner and you do the dishes and load of laundry. And then I would sit down in front of the TV for a couple hours. And I just thought, what, I'm going to spend 30 minutes a day on the computer researching or doing whatever, whatever task I needed to do. And that might turn into an hour. And so that's one thing that I stopped doing. I just stopped watching TV. Now, what I do, well, of course, I work for Invent, right? So I have a couple different hats I wear over there. But even like today, I have this one task that I have to, find companies, reach out to companies. And I blocked my schedule for the day. And just, you know what? I turned off my phone, no phone, turned off my computer volume. So everything that came through, I wasn't distracted, cleared my schedule completely, and just had at it and focused. Because I think inventors by nature are a little attention deficit disorder people. Like we're a little distracted, like, squirrel everywhere. And I clean off my desk. I get all the clutter off of it too, just to get clarity and a clean workspace. So those are just some of the little tricks that I use.
Anybody else? Any tips on staying focused, taking breaks at times as well?
I think, something I tell my students and something that I kind of picked up on my own from doing this. And once again, the final draw of the process is just before getting a deal is reaching out, right? So we have to reach out, and, you spend all this time, planting the seed, fertilizing the ground, watering it, and all that is the IP, the marketing, the sell sheet, the design, the solving the problem. And now here you are and reaching out. You cannot stop. You cannot let it die on the vine, because it will in short order if you stop. So what I say, what I learned is every single day, I don't care how busy you are, you have to have 3 points of contact, minimum 3. That could be 2 follow-ups in the first sell sheet you send, reaching out to a new company. It doesn't matter what it is, any variation of the process, a minimum of 3 every single day. If not, you can expect to, it will die on the vine. So that's kind of my thing. I think that's very, very important.
Nice. How did you stay motivated when you were working on your products, Ryan?
I mean, like a lot of these people, like I have a full-time job. And so the design, the part that I love, the design and the creating, I mean, that's nights and weekends, to be real honest. And I was doing it heavy. I mean, at a time, full-time job and little babies. So it was rough. I'm not gonna lie. It was hard, but I had to do it like it. So I worked nights and weekends. I gave up a lot of the things and that maybe would have liked to do that. And that's life. I will say, what is harder is some of those questions, like, yeah, you're right. When you get into the game of when you're really contacting and getting on calls with other companies, that's probably going to be during work hours. And so you're going to have to get a little crafty if you've got a full-time job, and just, if that means taking a break and going out to your car or going to another space, or like, I mean, we're creative people. You got to find a creative way to make those emails, make those calls, and get it done. If it's a priority, if it's something you want to do, you'll do it. And there is a difference for me, the design phase and design development versus pitching. And what Martin said is like getting really disciplined and skilled at that is the other side of the game. But and it's life, man. You gotta do it.
Mm-hmm. Brad, did you ever? I'm sure you've taken a break. I'll ask the second part of the question. I'm sure you've taken a break before, and did you have a hard time getting back on the horse if you did?
I took a break, yeah, because I ended up moving. So I moved, changed jobs, helped my wife with her business, and so I really didn't have a lot of time. But I didn't like it because I still came up with ideas. just didn't really have the bandwidth to move forward with them. And I just said to myself, I'm going to get myself to a point where I can do this a lot more. And I did. It took a little bit of time, but I did that. And I'm so glad I like made that mental commitment to do it, because my life, it's changed since I did that. So yes, I have to-do lists. I think they're crucial. And even if you don't want to do them, like I do the feared things first. I think Stephen maybe talked about it in the steps, but I knock out the stuff that I don't want to do just to get them out of the way, and then I can focus on the things I really want to do. But I don't take breaks right now. I tried taking one over Thanksgiving, but I ended up working on a PPA, and I was going to work on a trademark. I didn't get around to that, but I still ate a lot of good food and spent time with family. But I thought this is my time. I gotta get this PPA wrapped up. So
I'm gonna go even a little deeper on this question. So you guys all have had success with your products. So obviously you had something inside you. There's something going on in your brain that kept you going. So maybe you're not, I think most people aren't even conscious of it, right? So think about it for a sec. What did you tell yourself? Did you beat yourself up for not doing something? Do you encourage yourself? Did you visualize your product on the store shelf? What? And I think maybe you're not even conscious of it. You might not be able to say what it is. Maybe you've just always been driven people. But what are some tricks people can use to keep themselves going and to keep motivated and to keep disciplined and to do the freaking work? Anybody?
I got one. Oh, Dana, you want to go in here, Dana?
Well, yeah, I started laughing because you said visualize your product on the store shelves. I actually, way before I licensed my shower caddy, I put my shower caddy in like a plastic package. I kind of mocked up a label, whatever. I got like a little plastic hook. I put my shower caddy in the packaging. I went up to Bed Bath & Beyond like I owned the place. I walked in there. I walked to the shower caddy section. I took a bunch of shower caddies off the rack, set them down very nicely, and put my shower caddy right on the rack, right in the middle of all the shower caddies. And I took a picture of it. The woman who worked there came up and said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "No, I'm fine," and just kept on going about my business. And I had that on every picture. I had it on my computer's screen. I had it on my phone. I had it so I constantly looked at it. And then the only other mental thing that I did is that I knew that the only thing that was stopping me was fear. That's the only thing that was stopping me from moving forward. And I had these visions of me sitting on in my rocking chair when I was 100 years old on my front porch saying, "Why didn't I do that? Why didn't I reach out to that next company? What was I so scared of?" And that's what kept me going, because those visions of having these ideas and not doing anything with them, or having this one idea and not doing anything, because the only thing that was stopping me was me. Nothing else. I could have come up with 1,000,001 excuses. That's all they were excuses, because there's no reason why I couldn't do this.
I want to jump on that real quick, because I think Dana just hit it out of the park and pretty much was more detailed to what I was going to say. To the 2 points, I cannot tell you the power of positive visualization. It is extreme. You do it, you watch it, you see it, your subconscious makes it happen, and in the future, you will end up having a licensed product. It works. Okay, so for everyone listening, it works. Thank you, Dana. Yeah. And to go to the other point that she was making, what I was going to say initially is something very simple. Fear is temporary. Regret will last you your lifetime. Period. End of story. So every person who's listening, every time you don't want to do it, every time you want to stop, or whatever it is, just like Dana says, we're all humans. We all have excuses, and that's what they are. It's an excuse why you didn't do something. Or, dropping the word try from your vocabulary, because if I try, I'm opening up the dimension to be able to give myself an out for when it doesn't happen. So you don't try, you do or you do not do. And just remember that and take that to heart and believe it. And when you do that, just remember these things. Life is short. So, that's what I would say about that. But yeah, totally.
Wow. That was really great, guys.
That's great.
Okay, last question, and then we're going to jump on some questions from the audience. So if you guys have questions, start typing them in. Try to keep them short. Don't write a whole book there, but um, so last one was what was and is currently the hardest part of the licensing process for you? So maybe what was and what is still the hardest part? Because it's not like it's all a piece of cake for you now because you know what to do, right? Ryan, what's the hardest part for you of the process?
I mean, the hardest part is the amount of time. I think in reaching and connecting with these people, the time it takes for them, or the time it gets back, and then, and I don't know if I do this right, but sometimes I have a strategy of, okay, I really want this brand. This is number 2, 3, 4, 5, and so I'm waiting for a no from 1 before I go to 2 to 5, and so like the hardest part is just how long it might take some of these people to respond or get back to you or connect or make a decision. Um, but again, it's back to everything Martin and Dana said. You just got to keep your head in the game and keep going, and be patient, but persistent.
Thank you. Brad, what's the hardest part of the process for you?
Well, I think it kind of ties into the visualization, because I'll get companies interested and I'm immediately visualizing my products, next to theirs on the shelf, and the big royalty checks coming in, and some of these companies are big, and so when that deal doesn't come through, that's hard because I've already built it up in my mind that this was happening, it's a done deal. So that can be tough. So you have to kind of rebound off that. The initial no's, I'm emotionally numb to them. Like that,
Yeah.
they mean nothing to me. But it's the ones when you're on that emotional roller coaster and you're on that big hill with that big company, and all of a sudden they just decide not to move forward. That's a tough one. But it doesn't stop me. You got to keep going. Oh, and I get my kids involved too. So
Oh, that's
I have
interesting.
goals in life. As far as where I want to live, type of house, all that stuff. I get them. I'll go house driving with my kids, and then they're like, "I like that one, Daddy. I like that one." I'm just like, "Wow, they got good taste." Like my son, he's all detailed. He's like, "I want a white house, 2-story, double balcony. I want palm trees with bird nests in them." I'm like, "All right, we're doing it." So like, it pushes me. Like I'm not going to sit on my butt, and not do anything that day because I want to invest in their dreams and goals too.
Cool. You guys are amazing. You're giving incredible advice. Let's jump to some questions from the audience. Jennifer, who's an InventRight student, I don't think you can talk about it. Martin says, can you get an update from Martin's toy and game development since his successful trip to LA, and Ryan's progress, particularly if he's focusing solely on drinkware, exploring other categories? So, Martin, do you have any updates on what you're up to? I know you got some. They're just not, the stuff isn't out there yet, so you can't talk about it, right?
Right. Can't talk specifics. What I can say is that, from what developed from there, there's probably at least 5 products that are being sampled out and prototyped and everything else to see if it'll actually end up working. So yeah, no, things are going great. Couldn't go any better.
Does that make you nervous? Not
No.
knowing if it's gonna, or are you fairly certain they can make it work? Or you know that it'll work, but you're worried that won't try hard enough or something sometimes?
Well, I have a deep enough hand in what's going on that I'm turning some of the levers myself. So I'm a little bit more in control in this situation than a normal licensee licensor type of relationship. So I'm not worried about it, but I love Brad's answer, because I think Brad's answer from before would have been the same exact answer. The most frustrating thing is when you have this and it's all going good and it looks like it's going to happen, and then all just disintegrates in front of you, and you're like, oh, but it happens.
Brad's been there, I know. Ryan, how many whiskey wedges have been sold? Can you disclose that?
Yeah, I think so. About I don't know, 1.5 million, I think.
Holy crap! Pardon my
That's awesome.
language. Yeah, that's great. Let's do a virtual clap on that one.
And I think Cigar Glass, because it came out a little bit later. I don't know, it's not quite to 1 million yet, maybe 700,000. But again, that's not me. I give the credit to the brand. Like it was a product that followed the brand. It wasn't the brand's product. Like the brand grew, and so as the brand grew, it just follows its distribution. But to answer that question, yeah, I started out in drinkware. That's what the category that I was working around. But what really opened, so I would go, and we've maybe talked about this before, I would go to, with that brand, I'd go to the International Houseware Show in Chicago. Then you meet all of these houseware brands and you get all these ideas, build relationships, build contacts. And then I started pitching, designing a lot of ideas in the housewares category. Then that really expanded out into kind of hardware tools I've worked on, and then kind of recreational equipment. And then I have kind of a lifestyle brand that I've started creating called Kill Your Giant. But yeah, I think once you start that flywheel going on ideas, you'll see how you can solve problems in a lot of categories. And that might be worth a discussion or a question, is like, do you focus, is it better to just focus on one area, like be the toy guy or be the housewares guy? So I have a problem because I have just too many ideas. So I'm thinking in different categories. One might say I might be more successful if I really dialed in on one category, got to know all the brands, got to know the people, and focused there. But I unfortunately haven't done that. Maybe I should.
How many so you're in 3 or 4 different categories right now?
I mean, housewares obviously is big broad. I would say housewares, hardware, and kind of the outdoor I call it kind of recreational equipment stuff.
Okay. Yeah, it's just more work, right? You're a hard worker. Yeah. But I see what you're saying. If you really focus on one industry, you can really, really maintain those relationships. I get a theme going here, and I think new inventors, they're so obsessed with their first idea, which is nothing wrong with that, but they're not even thinking about relationships. And you guys have brought that up over and over again, that every no you get is an opportunity for a relationship. And I think that's one of the most important things that people need to learn here. So Michelle typed in, how many hours per week did you invest to make each project come to life / get to the pitch phase? So I don't know. I mean, do you even keep track of how many hours you spent? Brad's like,
I
no.
can say that it probably wasn't very much. I mean, it might have been, some weeks was 5 hours, some weeks was 2 hours, some weeks I was obsessed and it was 8 hours. I mean, it wasn't like I ever put in a 40-hour week or anything like that. And, and I'd work an hour here or half an hour there, or on a weekend, sometimes a little bit longer if I had some time. But it really, I was shocked actually that it didn't take as much time as I thought it was going to take. And for the most part, a lot of what we can do, and Benjamin and Stephen wrote that book, using licensing using LinkedIn. And he writes in the book that he says, as I'm writing this book, Dana Knowles has just texted me telling me that she got into a response from a company at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night. Like, I was working on a Sunday night, reaching out to a company, and the guy just happened to have his phone in his hand and reached back out to me. And I'm like, oh, well, so, not a lot.
Is there, now, Ryan, you mentioned if you have a full-time job, you got to be creative, but we've been talking about, as far as when you can reach out, but we've been talking a lot about lately that anytime, on a holiday, on a weekend, whenever, I mean, if you're calling their corporate number, they're probably not going to pick up. What has been your experience there as far as outreach goes?
Well, I mean, obviously online, you could email or message people anytime. That's clear. As far as like setting up, if you're setting up an appointment or a call or a video call, that's kind of where, like, I might have to step out of my cube if you work in some cube to go do that. But I'm also honest with people. Like, I use the fact that I'm an architect to an advantage. They love that. They're like, oh, you're a designer. Oh, that's cool. And so I don't hide from the fact that I come from an architecture background, because they love the idea that I at least have a design kind of lingo, even though it's different from obviously industrial design.
You guys agree with that? You just be who you are. I mean, that's what we're always telling our students. Like, if you're a plumber and on your LinkedIn it says I'm a plumber and a product developer, that's okay. It's all right.
Yeah. Totally.
It doesn't hurt you.
Hey,
Come
I
up
just
with a
want to
great
jump
plumbing
in
idea.
there. I'll jump in and say, I have no degree whatsoever. I'm a high school dropout. I drank and drugged for 20 years. I was homeless in 1997. I have no background at all in any of this. And I can do it. So anybody can do it. And not that I'm saying that, I'm just saying that I know that, Ryan, an architect, and Martin has a background in this, and Andrew owns the company, and Brad, I don't really know what you do, but but for all those people who don't have that huge education behind them, anybody can do this.
And companies in the United States don't really care, because I think in the United States we have this culture that anybody can make it. If you dropped out, doesn't matter, that as long as it's a good idea. I think in Europe they're a little bit more judgy, like what's your background, what's your credentials and stuff. It's a little bit of a stereotype, but there's a little bit of truth to it. So I always tell people, like, they just don't care. They just want a good idea. And as long as you have good marketing materials and you're not acting crazy and you're not writing page-long emails, those are the things that are important, not your background. They're not asking you what else you license, like, ever.
No, they want
care.
two things. And don't we hear it over and over and over again? And I know we've all heard it, who's reached out. They want two things. They want, show us a good idea and be easy to work with.
Yep.
We don't care if you went to college. They don't care if you went to college. They don't care if you don't know how to use punctuation. They just don't give us a good idea that our customers are going to like and be easy to work with.
Right.
That we can come up with good ideas all the time, but a skill of being easy to work with is something that we have to learn. Because there's the right and the wrong to do. It's like I just this morning, and I'll just kind of share this. I got a LinkedIn message from a fellow inventor. I wrote back to him, I didn't know I was going to read a book today. And he's like, what? I'm like everything he was saying, he could have said in 3 sentences. And I told him that. And I said, you just, and I was really honest with him about this is not the type of email that you should be sending out to people. It's too long. Nobody's going to read it. He's like, and he says, I didn't even know, because he's trying to tell me everything, I didn't know I was going to read a book today, though. I was a little sarcastic. Good
advice. This next one is not even a question. It was just a comment, but I want you guys to comment on this, because I've seen this problem over the decades that we've been running InventRight. Janice said, I have a patent trying to figure out the manufacturing side and also licensing. So to me, I see a lot of inventors that they're on the fence, and you could venture one product and license another, and they're two completely different paths. So they're half-assing it. They're like, oh, I'll get some quotes for manufacturing over here. And it's like, well, you don't really need to do that when you're licensing, probably. And I'll do this over here. And they're two different paths, and they're two different sets of skills and checklists on what to do. Do you guys have you guys personally made that mistake before? Any advice there? I see Ryan shaking his head. Yeah.
I mean, I went backward. Licensing is way easier. I did have an idea that actually a brand said, man, that's your idea. You go make that. You can make that. And so I did go down the route, of manufacturing, and I spent, but the cost of what it was going to be was a little like, I don't think I'm going to spend 250 grand to bring this to market. I'm going to go back to.
You're lucky if you can do 250. That'd be cheap product.
So it's a good exercise if you just want to spend the time, but at the end of the day, you're going to need some serious capital. And I've known plenty of people have done it and become really successful, but it's an incredible amount of work, incredible amount of capital. The payoff's bigger in theory, but
let me ask you guys this question. If somebody's afraid to reach out to 3 or 4 potential licensees, should they be starting their own business? You need to reach out to thousands of people when you have your own business.
Yeah.
I think it's, I think it would be foolhardy for anyone to try to venture their product the first round. The first time they're getting into something like this, do not even try to venture. Look at licensing, get yourself educated. You will learn the type of commitments like Ryan is talking about that it's going to take. And it doesn't mean it can't work. It can work, but it's going to be, if you think licensing's hard, yeah, it's a whole other animal. It's a whole other animal.
Yeah. I kind of think that there's like one foot in venturing and one foot in licensing with that question, but I also realize that a lot of times we talk about find manufacturers to license your product at the find, and what we're saying is find brands that manufacture their own products, right. Not so much the manufacturing plant that's actually manufacturing it. Find companies that manufacture their own brands. And
well, so that was the next question from Lori.
Oh, okay.
How do you, and so maybe you could just keep talking, then everybody else can jump in. How do you find the right brands? When doing my research, I see a lot of Chinese brands. How do you find the brands here in the USA? I mean, she's probably talking about Amazon.
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff out there on Amazon.
There's a, you know what? I'm working on a project right now, and I'm trying to find brands that make this particular, there's some features on this product that I need to find companies, and it's a simple doing massive Google searches with all different keywords. And when I do find that company, I will Google that company. And what happens is after I start to look at so many things, my computer starts, the algorithm, they start to pop things up. LinkedIn will do the same thing. If you start looking at certain companies, you'll start seeing a thing pop up on your, well, it does on my computer. I don't know about anybody else's. I like to think I'm kind of special, but it comes up and it starts telling you, if you're looking at this, you might want to look at this. And I'm also all about reading articles and even putting in whatever your product is. If your product is and I'll use mine, a hanging shower caddy, type in top 20 hanging shower caddies, articles on top 20, and start reading articles. And, you know, it just starts, all the pieces start coming together because you read about this person, then you Google that person and find out what company they work for. And then it's really like a big maze. And I think that's why I like it so much, because it's such a challenge to, like, you know, like the hunt and the kill. Like,
but I'm gonna share the basics, Lori, with you. The big and the mistakes that people make. The mistakes a lot of people make is, one, they think they're going to license to the retailer. Retailers, you know, they do their house brands sometimes, and they're getting more prevalent. But usually, you're licensing to the brand that sells at the retailer. Okay, so once you understand that, oh, I go to Target and I got this little stationery product going to sit on my desk, and I see there's 10 companies selling little pencil holders or stationery products. Well, what do you know? You know they're in Target. You know they're making products in that category. They're somebody you should reach out to, right? So that's one major disconnect. The other major disconnect is they think they need to only reach out to people making the exact same thing. Well, I got a garlic press, so I can only reach out to people making garlic presses. No, they can be making other kitchen gadgets. Maybe they're like, garlic presses are kind of generic. Oh, but I like yours. Maybe we'll get into garlic presses now. So, and then the last tip that I'll give is only going with the retailers you know. You know, you need to, like, once I Google list of major US sporting good retailers, and there was a freaking Wikipedia list. There isn't always lists like that. And there was a ton of retailers I didn't know. If I'm not looking at those retailers, I'm not finding the brands selling at those retailers. Because I'm in Nevada, I'm on the West Coast. Maybe the East Coast has, you know, I've never been in a Piggly Wiggly, or it's just so silly. There's a grocery store called Piggly Wiggly to me, but I've never lived in that part of the country. You're missing out. You're going with your limited knowledge. That's the other big key thing. I know I'm not on the panel here, but I couldn't help but to give advice there. I think that, go ahead, Tina. Go ahead.
I was saying, don't steal our thunder. Come on.
Yeah. Well, I was really good this time. I kept quiet almost the whole time. I just had to give that one tip. I did good there. You guys were absolutely amazing. Anything you guys want to say in closing, Brad? And then we're going to do a group shot, so don't take off here. Brad, anything you want to say in closing, since we're about 5 minutes past?
I buy all my bacon at Piggly Wiggly.
Do you? Okay. Take a picture for me at Piggly Wiggly. I want to, on the outside of the store. I want to see that.
You got it. No, I love all the feedback from all the panelists. I feel like a lot of good information. So I had a student asking if this is going to be recorded, so I'm glad to hear that it will be. So I'll definitely share that out.
Yeah, it'll be up on the IGA or the InventRight YouTube channel, and then it'll be up on the IGA website as well. So, Martin, how about you? Anything you want to say in closing?
You know what? I think the best thing I could say is don't give up, stay consistent, and stay persistent. If you do that, that is literally 60% of the battle. So, yeah.
Cool. Consistent and persistent. Oh, I like that. Dana, how about you?
I just, like I said earlier, find somebody who's doing what you want to do and follow in their footsteps.
Good advice.
know.
Ryan?
I've always hated the phrase ideas are a dime a dozen, and because everything you see around you started with an idea, like, and so your idea like is the beginning of anything. So don't discount just because you have an idea, and know that because of license, someone else can execute on it. Yeah, execution is everything. Let someone else execute on it. You execute on the idea and get it to them, and let them get it to market. And don't give up on yourself. Keep going. Keep swinging the bat, and stay in the game.
You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. We're going to do a group shot now. So do one of these two things or whatever the hell else you want, as long as it's appropriate. But give a thumbs up or give a wave. And I got a couple screens to take a screenshot of. So let's do that. Here we go. Screen number 1, thumbs up or a wave, big smile. There we go. I feel like a family photographer or something like that. There, screen 2, screen 3. And I think when I get to 4 and 5, nobody's on video anymore. So thank you guys. Now I got to get back to their screens here.
Thank you everyone for joining. There was a lot of people here tonight. My gosh, it's awesome.
Yeah, I don't think we don't have a speaker set up for December. We'll let you know. We'll definitely have one for January, maybe one for December. I have a gentleman that I'm looking at. We try to do a lot of different topics. I know lately we've been going back to a lot of licensing stuff. I got a gentleman about manufacturing overseas. So even though we were talking about licensing, because that's our panel of experts today, we want to have topics in all areas. So this gentleman is about manufacturing overseas. I don't know if I'm going to get him as a speaker or not, but that might be our speaker. But we do these every month. And so take care and keep inventing, everybody. See ya.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.